Okay, Mr. Hubbard, are we ready to go on the record?
I am ready.
Okay, we'll go on the record.
Okay, one moment. Okay, we're on the record.
All right, thank you. I call case 22-E-0064 and case 22-G-0065, proceeding on motion of the Commission as to the rates, charges, rules, and regulations of Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc. for electric and gas service. Good evening. We're here this evening for a public statement hearing that was noticed on February 28th, 2022. Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Inc., which I will refer to as Con Edison from now on, filed amendments to its electric and gas tariff schedules on January 28, 2022, proposing to increase its annual electric and gas delivery revenues effective January 1st, 2023. Con Edison proposes to increase its electric delivery revenues by approximately $1.2 billion, which would be a 17.6% increase in base delivery revenues or an 11.2% increase in total revenues. And it proposes to increase its natural gas delivery revenues by approximately $500 million, which would be a 28.1% increase in base delivery revenues or an 18.2% increase in total revenues. Under New York state law, the Public Service Commission must consider a utilities proposal and may adopt or reject it in whole or in part, or it may modify it. This evening, we're holding this hearing so that you can provide your comments on these proposals for the Commission's consideration. My name is James Costello. I am an administrative law judge for the Department of Public Service. With me today is Administrative Law Judge Ashley Moreno, also from the Department of Public Service. And together we are responsible for presiding over the hearings in these cases and the development of a complete record for these proceedings. The Public Service Commission will decide what Con Edison's terms and conditions of service will be. The Public Service Commission has 7 members. The chairperson, Rory Christian, and 6 commissioners. The 6 commissioners are Diane Berman, James Alessi, Tracy Edwards, John Howard, David Valesky, and John Maggiore. And we are fortunate this evening to have Chair Rory Christian as well as Commissioner Maggiore with us, and I'm going to ask if the chair would like to address the participants.
Thank you, Judge Costello. I want to thank you and Judge Moreno for setting this up today. This is a very important time, and this is a very important topic, and I look forward to hearing what the public has to say about the proposed rates and the changes as put forward by Con Ed. I look forward to hearing the healthy discussion and taking into consideration what is said today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Maggiore, would you like to address the participants?
Thank you, Judge. I would just reiterate what the chair said. I, too, am looking forward to hearing what folks have to say. I'm here to listen. And I would like to thank everybody who showed up tonight virtually. So you won't hear from me again, but I am looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'll do now is explain the process that we're going to follow this evening. As stated, the purpose of this hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on Con Edison's proposal. The statements you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter who will prepare a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record of this proceeding so that your comments can be considered by the members of the Commission. When the transcript is ready, it will be available for view on the Department of Public Service's website. This hearing is not an evidentiary hearing, nor is it a question and answer session, but it is a forum to hear comments from you. It's not the only opportunity that you would have for comments. If you did not pre-register to speak at today's hearing, but you would like your views included in the record, There are a variety of other ways to comment that were listed in the public notice for today's event. There are also, if you are participating electronically, they're now listed on your screen, and I will summarize them for people that are participating by telephone. You can submit comments on the Department of Public Services website, by email, regular mail, or by telephone. And regardless of how those comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. You should also know that comments may be submitted and will be considered as long as these cases are pending for the commission. If you have registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize any lengthy written statement orally and submit the full written statement by email or mail. And because of the number of people that have registered to speak, we also ask that you try to stay within a 3-minute time limit for your oral comments this evening. There are people who registered and are participating electronically, and there are those who registered and are participating by telephone. In either case, you should have only one audio input from one device. Otherwise, we may experience problems with feedback. And I will call the persons that have pre-registered one by one to speak. If someone is not available when we call them, I'll continue with the next person and we'll come back to those people who are not available. I'll come back to them at the end. For telephone participants, when I call out your name, I will ask that you hit *3 on your telephone so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. It may take a little while for us to locate you and unmute your line, so please make sure to wait until you hear a beep or are notified that your line has been unmuted before you speak. If you have muted your own telephone, you also will have to unmute your line on your end. For the people that registered electronically, after I call your name, your line will be unmuted, and you should hear a tone and see that the microphone icon on your WebEx is no longer red. Please be reminded that if you put your own line on mute, telephone on mute, and you would have to unmute that before you begin to speak. We're going to start by calling on the members of the public who have registered to speak, and then we will move to individuals who have registered to speak who are also parties to the proceeding. As parties have greater privileges and opportunities to build a record in these proceedings, and therefore we ask that you summarize any lengthy comments and submit them in writing. Please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. When your line is unmuted, please state and spell your name, and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, the name and spelling of the organization. And once I confirm that I can hear you, you can proceed to make your comments. So with that, we're going to turn to our first speaker. Our first speaker is Senator Shelly Mayer.
Senator, you've been unmuted. You may proceed.
Senator Mayer, we can't hear you on the side. If you have a mute function on your phone, you'd have to unmute that. There we go. It does not appear, she does not appear, Senator Mayer does not appear to be unmuted. It's, okay. Senator Mayer, I may ask you to, we can't hear you, so it may ask you to call back in, and I'll go to the next person and then come back to you. So the next person would be Ryan Noney, N-O-N-E-Y. And if you're calling in, you would have to unmute your, hit *3 so we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay.
I do not see Mr. Rooney.
Okay, I do not as well. Shall we try Senator Mayer?
Senator Mayer, you've been unmuted. You may proceed.
No, still having trouble. We're going to go on to our next speaker, Julian Tepper. If you are calling in, please hit *3.
Julian Tepper is not on the line.
Okay, thank you. Billy Gee.
Yes,
Mr. Gee, you've been unmuted. You may proceed.
yes. I have a couple of questions, okay? On
I'm sorry, I just have to ask everyone if you could just spell your name for the court reporter.
yes, my name is Billy, Billy, and my last name is Gee.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you may present your statement.
Okay, my problem was I got a bill that is over $5,000. I live in a 2-family house downstairs. My tenant has their own meter, and I have mine. They came here February 5th and installed a new smart electrical meter. And since that day on, the first month, that's the month before, I got $938 for 1 month. And then my next bill was $5,235.29. I've been calling Con Edison, calling 3 times. The first time I was on the phone for 3 hours on a recording phone, and then they hung up on me. Second time I was there for another hour. The third time I was there for another hour. And then on March 11th, I finally got through, and Mrs. Simon, I spoke to Mrs. Simon, and she told me that they will go over the bill and see what's wrong. Obviously, there's a mistake. My apartment, my house is that it's only for one tenant for upstairs and one for downstairs. My bill was over 5,000, and so was the tenant's bill was over 5,000. I asked them to see what they can do to correct it, and they said they'll get back to me or email me a new bill, which I have not received yet. Also, on they Edison came to the house without an appointment, and I wasn't home that day, and they came on a Tuesday, and they left me one of the things they leave like a door on a doorknob. They said if they have to come back again, they would charge me $100. I spoke to Mr. Simon about it, and she said there's no appointment available for March. I would have to call back again. But for courtesy as a client, as a customer, don't they have to give us appointment or when they're coming around this area? And the first thing they do is ring they leave a note, and they're going to come back. They're going to charge us $100 to install a smart meter for gas next time. And I asked Mr. Simon, is it possible? Can you put a notation that I did call, and she said there is no appointment for March, and I got to call back again. And this totally is almost 16 hours I've been calling for 3 days, and I can't get through.
Okay, what I'd like to do is give you an 800 number that you can call up for the Department of Public Service. It's a helpline.
Okay.
It's 1-800
Yes.
342-3377.
Okay.
And they should be able to give you some assistance as to how you should proceed.
Okay. For the meantime, I don't want to be charged of a late fee that the bill normally I get it on the 5th or the 6th, and I haven't heard back from them or anything.
Okay, again, I can't help you here this evening, but if you call that 800 number, they should be able to give you some direction.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try Senator Mayer again, please. We'll unmute the line.
Senator, you've been unmuted. You may proceed.
For some reason, when you unmute other people, the icon turns green and it disappears. So I think, Senator Mayer, if you're on the line, if you can call in by telephone it may be easier to get, be able to get through to you because we cannot hear you right now for whatever reason that is. Or, yeah, if you log in again, have the audio call your telephone. That way, it may come through easier for us because we can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next speaker. It's Patricia DeLustro. And if you are calling in, please hit *3 so that we can identify you and unmute your line.
I do not see Ms. DeLustro. Ms. DeLustro, if you are on the line, please press *3.
Okay, we'll go to Sarah Noda. If you're a call-in user, please hit *3.
I do not see Ms. Noda, Your Honor. And I see Senator Mayer twice. Perhaps we should try her again.
Okay, yes, let's go to Senator Mayer.
Senator,
Okay.
you've been
Can you hear me
unmuted.
now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize. I changed computers, but thank you for being so accommodating and good afternoon. Thank you, judges and members of the commission who are present today for the opportunity to be here. I'm State Senator Shelly Mayer from the 37th Senate District, representing cities from Yonkers to Rye, as well as towns from Bedford to Eastchester and villages from Portchester to Bronxville, all in Westchester. I'm here today to testify in strong opposition to Con Ed's proposed $1.2 billion electric rate increase and $500 million gas rate increase requests. Or as my constituents see it, a request for the PSC to allow Con Ed to charge them another $1.7 billion on top of already outrageous energy costs this winter and amidst a long simmering discontent with Con Ed's performance. This request for an increase comes on the heels of Con Ed's most recent rate increase, which I strongly opposed. The result of the 2019 rate case was that the PSC approved 3 yearly increases, and as a result, rates have gone up annually. We cannot examine this increase request without considering the context. First, Con Ed's services are essential for our personal survival. Ratepayers have few, if any, options to reduce their bills by their own behavior to any substantial degree. And you should not underestimate my constituents' dissatisfaction with the PSC and its failure to serve as aggressive advocates for New York's consumers. Second, only 1 month ago, thousands of New Yorkers were absolutely blown away by their Con Ed bill increases of 100% or more. Even there, the performance of Con Ed and frankly the PSC was absolutely unacceptable. The communications surrounding the wild swing of energy prices was next to non-existent, and the approach to shielding customers from the worst of the financial shock through hedging and other remedies was poor at best. Third, and for my community, repeated inadequacies in storm response by Con Ed have not been and should not be forgotten. From Sandy to March 2018 nor'easters and Isaias in 2020, Con Ed has repeatedly minimized the well-being of my constituents, focusing too hard on rewarding its shareholders and overpaying its executives. I am submitting written testimony, but let me close by this. Con Ed and the PSC need to wake up to the reality of what customers face. Deep frustration based on repeated across the board higher prices, poor performance in storms, an economy made unstable by recovery from COVID and war abroad, and a deep sense that the regulatory apparatus works for the utility and not for them. In conclusion, I urge you to 1, reject any rate increase, reject the profits Con Ed is trying to make off its already burdened customers, and ensure that the interests of customers and ratepayers determine any decisions that are made. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you, and I look forward to listening to the other witnesses here today. And thank you for being so accommodating.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Vitalis and Deacon. And if you were calling in, please hit *3 on your telephone so we can locate you and unmute your line.
Mr. Nadikam, please press *3 and unmute your line if you're a phone user. I do not see Mr. Nadikam at this time.
Okay, and could you also please put Senator Mayer on mute at this time? Thank you. Okay, Denise Hosier.
I do not see Ms. Hosier.
Thank you. Donica Charles, if you are calling in, please hit *3. We'll move on to Jacqueline Marti. Again, if you are a call-in user, please hit *3.
Marty, are you on the line? Please press *3 on your keypad so that I can identify you. Thank you.
Don't see anyone, so we'll move on to Nora Rodriguez. If you are a call-in user, please hit *3. We'll move on to Tina Whitley.
Whitley, if you're on the line, please press *3 on your keypad so that I can identify you. Thank you.
Not seeing anybody, we'll move on to Amanda Johnson. And if you're calling in, again, *3 so that we can identify you. Okay, not seeing anyone, we'll go on to Amanda Johnson. Please hit *3 if you're calling in.
I see Ms. Johnson, Judge.
Okay. Then Nadine Shelton, and she's an electronic user.
Ms. Shelton, you have been unmuted. You may proceed.
Thank you. This is Nadine Shelton here, and the name is Nadine. Last name is Shelton, S as in Sam, Helton. And I'm a Brooklyn resident here in New York City and have been a Con Ed user since I moved back to New York in 2019. So I was very shocked to see my bill go from around $100 a month to $500 a month in January 2021, and then back down to around $200 a month last month. I'm very fortunate in that my husband and I do work full time, and we were able to make that payment in January of over $500 for just normal heating and cooling and use of an electric stove. But it was extremely concerning to see the bill fluctuate so much and still be double where we were last year, November, December time. So I just wanted to make a statement in that it's not sustainable for the majority of families who are already choosing between rent, food, and heat. Like I said, we're fortunate at the moment. We were able to make that payment and continue our service. But if one of us were to lose our jobs, we would certainly not be able to handle fluctuation like that. So it was a really poor user experience, to say the least, but is definitely putting a lot of families in jeopardy of maintaining heat in their homes and being able to prepare food for their families. So we'll keep an eye on the bill to see what the behavior is for the next month. I did write to Con Ed when the bill came in and inquired about why there was so much fluctuation and haven't received a response. But certainly would love to see, and glad to hear we had a senator speaking tonight, but would certainly like to see some action taken in providing more transparency around how these bills could possibly be so vast from month to month. Yes, and again, very glad to see we have a senator involved and would also like to see some regulation to create some standards around how these bills are issued. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Leierle. And if you are a call-in user, please hit *3 so we can identify you. There is a call-in user who has his hand raised.
Mr. Leierle,
Mark Leierle speaking. Mark Leierle speaking, MarkLeierly. I'm a Westchester resident, also a disabled Air Force veteran. And I'd like to first of all thank the Commission for this opportunity to be heard this evening. After 40 years of customer service, well actually customer experience with Consolidated Edison Company of New York, I truthfully get it. Con Edison, the largest investor-owned utility in the state of New York, is obligated to earn profits for its investors. Seeking $1.7 billion in additional revenue and investments and delivery systems is, in my humble opinion, an over-the-top rate case. I do recognize the challenges ahead of recovering lost sales due to COVID-19 restrictions, the expired tax credit programs, and rising property taxes, rising costs, and overall security, just to name a few items. But Consolidated, or Con Edison, as we say, their proposal on the 17.6% on electric delivery and 28.1% on the natural gas delivery is really unbelievable. And I believe that will be phased in over a time period. But New York's green energy policies are main drivers in reducing carbon footprints, and we're aware of that. So Con Edison's estimate of saving 2.4 million metric tons of carbon dioxide over the next 3 years, it may be a good estimate if you're targeting the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act's goals of 70% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% zero emissions by 2040. Again, in my humble opinion, as a loyal customer, these are best guess benchmarks. As I said, I do welcome Con Edison's multi-year plan for consumers, but I do have a few questions. Will Con Edison direct a percentage of this revenue towards expansion? How will Con Edison deal with the unregulated supply, strategically and logistically? How does the Climate Mobilization Act of 2019 impact Westchester County, if at all? Delivery, supply, taxes, and fees are all bill-related, and the costs that continue to swell as New York establishes a renewable energy state. But I do interpret the 2022 rate case as a super upfront investment for hopefully lower future rates on the road to clean energy and carbon decline. But I would also argue responsibility to customer communications is central when addressing delivery of services. The 2018 winter storms of Riley and Quinn drew attention to the failed customer communications. During the ongoing Westchester moratorium, I personally could not communicate with Con Edison via email or phone, actually until last night, around 9:30. I received an email from some company or organization called Sensible, CENTSIBLE House, HOUSE, one word, and it was regarding Con Edison's oil-to-electric conversion program. So this was the first piece of contact since February the 9th. I've been trying to reach out. This is very frustrating for a loyal customer with a family dwelling such as myself that is trying to pursue clean heating and cooling energy source. Would I want to pay exorbitant prices for less than all-star performance by my utility provider? No. And some unintended consequences of these steep rates could be actually a halt or a pause on people converting from the oil. In closing, Con Edison 2022 rate case benefits investors more so than the public and or loyal customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leierle. I'd ask you to please hit *3 again. Thank you. Our next speaker is Jackson Gibbs.
Thank you all for having this meeting and having us all here. My name is Jackson Gibbs, spelled Jackson, Gibbs, Gibbs. And what I want to say is, I think it's important to recognize that two real elements to why it's important that we have different kinds of regulation and increased focus on what kinds of regulation those are. We already talk about price increases and different controls that must be addressed, but ultimately I think the problem is that we have a request coming in here for a constantly and literally increasing rate increase allowance, but we have an unrestricted and untethered supply charge increase. The core issue here is I think we need to have more regulation around these supply charges, and if not, we ought to have more regulation around how other things we can control, i.e. their rates, are reflexive to supply charges. When we have a homeowner, for example, who wants to increase rent by 5%, we require that they tell their actual tenants, hey, we're going to increase rent by a certain amount. We allow that to be given in advance because logically, a given tenant, given enough time, can choose to break their lease, can choose to move, and can pursue other options. Those other options, those alternatives, don't exist for Con Ed. The vast majority of New Yorkers cannot simply change utilities, cannot simply change a different provider, and when they can, there are very few to choose from. This means that Con Ed functionally is a quasi-monopoly over all these consumers who are forced to either choose to be cold and necessarily not live properly through winter or pay exorbitant prices. If we conclude that New York needs to have rent control, and I think most people agree that New York having rent control is a good thing, it does not make any sense that utilities, which also control being alive and having a safe well-being, are not controlled in the exact same way. I think it's important to note that even though Con Ed wants to increase revenues, and yes, of course, they have some fiduciary obligation to their investors, it does not make sense that given energy fluctuations, that all negative fluctuations should always impact the consumer. Even when prices go up or down, they might get a loss for a certain amount of time, but they can ultimately hedge against that by buying futures, having different financial options, or making sure, given a potential rate increase on their side, you typically recoup costs over time in different ways. I think the key problem now is they're able to so quickly increase their rates and so quickly guarantee their own revenue with pretty much no regard for New Yorkers and their wallets and their well-beings and their lives. And I think even if Con Ed has responsibility to its shareholders, this city and its regulatory bodies have an even greater obligation to our citizens to make sure every single person who wants to have electricity, who wants to have heat, who wants to be able to not make the choice between paying their electric bill and being able to have any money in their bank account doesn't have to make that choice and ultimately can stay a bit more safe and be more involved. I really urge you all to either, one, turn down this rate increase, and even moreover, pursue additional regulation. Regulate supply costs, make it impossible for any utility to simply dump all of their excess costs and charge them to the consumers. People don't have billions of dollars. Con Ed does. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maria Blanco. If you're calling in, please hit *3 so that we can identify you. Okay, not seeing anyone. I'll move along to Jonathan Goodwin. Again, if you're calling in, please hit *3. Okay, not seeing anyone. I'm going to move on to Carrie Bruggeman. It's Bruggeman. If you're a call-in user, again, please hit *3. Not seeing anyone. Dennis Ruskovich. And if you are calling in, you need to hit *3 so we can identify you and unmute your line. Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll move on to Yvonne Ebanks Belisario. Okay, not seeing anyone. The next person I have is CJ Marshall. If you're calling in, you would need to hit *3. Looks like we have we have a call-in user that has a hand raise function.
Talk. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. This is Christopher Marshall, Marshall, and we live here in Bedford Hills. I've been here for 25 years. Been here my entire life. My family's been here for nearly a century. This is our home. And I gotta tell you, my hands are trembling right now because I'm so upset about the bills that we've gotten from Con Ed. And we recently went solar on this house. So I can't see why my bills have tripled from the year before in 1 month, gone up doubled from that to where I got a bill for $1,255 and my usage went up 400%. Now I can't understand it. It just doesn't make sense to me that that this is happening. And I appreciate what Senator Mayer said. I mean, we're one of your constituents. And I've been talking to a lot of people around here who have businesses in here that are suffering too, as well as homeowners. This is obscene what Con Ed is pulling. And the reason why we went solar is to try to back away from Con Ed as much as possible. And I mean, I'm floored by this. I mean, we're retired now. We have a fixed income and we don't plan on going anywhere. This is my home. And I'm not going to let Con Ed push us out of here because they're getting away with murder. There's no justification for the bills that we've been getting, and there's no justification for these increases because I, too, have sat here during these storms when we've been out of power for a week and a half, and there's 4 tree trucks sitting up on the road here, and nobody's cranking up a chainsaw to clear the lines up here, just waiting for another tree to fall. I live in a very rural area here in Bedford, and there are trees hanging all over the roads here. And every time something happens, the amount of work, I don't know what they're paying these guys to sit in a truck. And I don't know why we would be paying these increases for things that Con Ed just is not going to do to provide proper service to us. And I wish, thank you, Senator Mayer, you'll be hearing from me, that's for sure. And I appreciate everybody else, but I can't talk anymore because I'm so upset. Thank you.
Mr. Marshall, I want to give you an 800 number for the Department of Public Service helpline. If you're inclined to reach out, they might be able to give you some direction or with finding some more answers. And it's 1-800-342-3377.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I already have it written down.
Okay, and I'd also ask you if you'd hit *3 again so that we can better identify any next caller.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Julia Pontes. And if you're calling in, please hit *3 so we can identify you. Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll go to Bob Wyman.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Okay, thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners. I'm Bob Wyman. It's WYMAN, individual party in this and previous rate cases. I think it is fair to summarize the public statement so far as The rates are too darn high. But I must warn everyone, you ain't seen nothing yet. Today's gas delivery rates are actually kept artificially low because the company insists on maintaining the fiction that today's gas infrastructure and the new infrastructure that they propose to build as far in the future as 2040 will remain in use for 80 or more years. But we know that this is simply not true. The truth is that while the fictional 80-year asset life keeps rates low today, it will impose higher rates on future ratepayers who will be forced to pay for stranded assets which are neither used nor useful and which provide them with no benefit. Unless something changes, low rates today means much higher rates tomorrow. These fanciful asset lives also increase the company's profits by inflating the rate base on which they earn their 9 to 10% return on equity each year. The problem is compounded by the company's continued use of straight-line depreciation, which is wholly inappropriate in the case where asset use will decline over time, and by the company's continued use of the broad group procedure. Both of these, straight-line depreciation and broad group, ensure that future low and moderate income customers will be forced to pay the cost of assets which are no longer used or useful, and that were in fact abandoned earlier by those more fortunate customers who could afford who avoided the gas price death spiral by investing early in non-gas heating systems. Why do we assume that the burden of decapitalizing and decommissioning the gas system should be borne only by ratepayers and not shared with the company's shareholders? Although the company will deny it, a more equitable cost recovery scheme could be employed without significantly increasing rates. For instance, if we were to maintain current rates but reduce the weighted average cost of capital by only a few percent, even while accelerating depreciation to something more rational, the cost of existing assets could be recovered by 2050. We could achieve that reduction in weighted average cost of capital by either reducing the company's ROI or by increasing leverage. We should consider also either requiring a greater use of financing or securitization. At the same time, we should abandon the broad group procedure and ensure that asset costs are recovered as they are abandoned. Doing so would reduce the accumulation of stranded assets. We can no longer afford to set rates as we have in the past. As Lee Zischi suggested earlier today, we can no longer afford to invest close to $1 billion a year in new gas assets. Times have changed. It is time for burden sharing, not burden shifting. It is time that we adjust the rate-making process to address the imperatives of our new reality. It is time that we abandon the company's proposed fantastical accounting methods and insist on more equitable rates which are more rationally determined. I will, of course, expand on these thoughts in my written testimony. Thank you for your time and for your attention.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do now is just go through and call out the names of people who have registered and who were not available when I first called them. And then we'll open it up for people who did not register, but who would now like to make a comment. So first, let me go through the names of people that have registered that I called earlier. I'll start with Ryan Noney, N-O-N-E-Y. If you are on the line, you'd need to hit *3 so that we can identify you. And this goes for everyone. I'm just going to go through the list, and I'm going to, please hit *3 if I call your name and you're on the line and want to make a statement. The next person is Julian Tepper. Patricia Delustro. Sarah Noda. Vitalis Endicum. Denise Hosier. Danica Charles. Jacqueline Marti. Nora Rodriguez. Tina Whitley. Amanda Johnson. Maria Blanco. Jonathan Goodwin. Kerry Bruggeman. Dennis Ruskovich, Yvonne Ebanks Belisario, and Julia Pontes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is open it up for others. I see David Wald has raised his hand. Can we unmute his line, please? Mr. Wald?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is David Wald, first name D-A-V-I-D, last name W-A-L-D. I want to thank the judges and the chair and all attendees for this opportunity. I just want to echo what everyone else has been saying, including the anger and frustration that we're all experiencing, the unconscionable request to increase rates, which are already exorbitant. Our bill here, we live in Northern Queens. Our bill has tripled from slightly over $270 a month to right now over $900 a month. We recently also had the smart meters installed, and our rates, like I said, have tripled. We have kept the thermostat at 66 degrees. We are walking around in our homes with sweatpants and sweatshirts. We have an elderly tenant here who is close to 90 years old. She is also complaining to us about the temperature in her apartment, and it's like one of the gentlemen said, if it should be cost shared and not costs shifted. If we are all bearing the burden of the economic crisis that we're in because of the pandemic, it's only incumbent upon Con Ed to experience the same type of sacrifices that we are making. Rather than increasing the rates, they should be giving a moratorium to the ratepayers rather than shareholders and investors. If we're biting the bullet, they need to also bite the bullet, not just for the rates, for profits, for the rates as well. I don't feel that this is something that should be approved. Possibly, like I said, a moratorium, or how about something crazy like a rate decrease? Where we go as ratepayers, as citizens, we have the opportunity to vote ourselves 17% increases in our salaries or 11% increases in our salaries, and having it rubber stamped by the Public Service Commission. We need relief, we need help, and we need it now. Thank you very much for your time, attention, and hope that my voice is being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to, anyone that is participating, and I'd like to have our screen changed so that we have the participation screen up. Thank you. So if you are participating and you're participating by telephone and would like to now make a statement, you would hit *3. If you are participating electronically and would like to make a statement, you can use the raise hand function. So I see we have a call-in user 11. Could we unmute that call-in user, please?
Hello?
Hello, yes, please state and spell your name, and then you can make your statement.
Hi, yeah, my name is Caitlin Frame. That's Caitlin Frame. And I have two statements to make. One is that I'm very much in favor of expanding the role of the ratepayer advocate in this state. I think it's an important role, and it's a very technical job that they fill, and it's a position that I'd like to see taken by someone who has not just a law degree and friendship with the governor, but also some technical experience, and possibly someone who also does advocacy work. Maybe there could be more than one ratepayer advocate, I don't know, because pay attention to this stuff. I'm a pretty smart person, but honestly, it's very hard for even me to sort out what is happening with the grid, and hard for me to understand whether we're getting our money's worth and whether the state's actually going to achieve the emissions reduction goals of the CLCPA. My other statement is that I've noticed in moving from Brooklyn to the Bronx that the charge for getting gas delivery every month is higher in the Bronx, and it's actually quite a bit higher. It's about twice what I was paying in Brooklyn. And this is the fee that gets paid whether you use gas or not that month. It's just basically going straight to the gas company. And I wonder, I was looking for an explanation of why that should be. If it's an infrastructure issue with the Bronx or something else. I didn't find a lot online about why. And that's the kind of thing that I think a ratepayer advocate could help people sort out and understand about their utility bills. Thanks. That's the end of my statement.
Thank you. We also have a hand raised by call-in user 2, and we could please unmute. Thank you. Call-in user, hi. Just please state your name and spell your name.
Sure. It's Rania Zoni, spelled R-A-N-I-A. Last name is Z-O-H-N-Y. I'm calling in as a resident who lives in the South Bronx, one of the lowest income areas in the Bronx, actually. And the reason why I'm calling is because I myself have been experiencing a extremely dramatic increase in my Con Edison bills. I've been living in this residency for about 5 years now. And in the first 3 years of living here, there were 2 people living here. And my Con Edison bills on average came up to about $200 to $250 throughout the winter. Now it is just myself living in this apartment, and I've had an investigation opened up to see what is the issue and what is causing such a dramatic increase in my gas and electricity in the last 4 months, which I have just been told, oh, it's just your usage or the apartment's pull for gas to keep the pipes warm. Now, I have been experiencing my bills to be about $500 to $570 between the months of November to January. Now, the last bill that I received was $702, and that was with me not turning on any of my gas heat and doing everything I possibly could to try to reduce back down to about $300 if I could. I've invested in a space heater. I spoke to Con Edison and let them know that with these rates, it is impossible for me to survive as a single individual who is also self-employed, and I can't keep up with these rates. And getting a space heater is incredibly dangerous, and as most people have seen on the news, on January 9th, there was a massive building fire that was caused from a space heater, with families just trying to keep warm and not having access to decent heat just for basic survival. That is something that has always worried me and scared me, and I find myself even being terrified using my space heater, but I cannot afford using my heating that is installed through the building, which would be using gas. It is unbearable, and it is enforcing me to potentially have to break my lease and completely leave New York City, which I have been living in as a native New Yorker, born and raised for the last 30 years here. And I would hate to have to relocate and try to start over in another state where I will likely be able to afford and survive basic needs over there instead of here in New York. And that is all.
Thank you. Before we go further, I'm just going to open it up one more time. If you're calling in and would like to make a statement, you could hit *3. And if you are using the computer to participate, you would hit the raise hand function, and we can accept you for a statement at this time. Okay, not seeing any. I'm going to ask if we could please put up the screen with the information with the help for the helpline. No, there's a screen that we should have for information for the helpline. Try the last slide. Okay, so there's a screen up for people who are participating electronically, and what I will do is read out some information for those on the telephone. So again, there was a helpline number for complaints and inquiries. That's 1-800-342-3377. If there, for any reason, people have issues with shutoffs, the number to call is 1-800-342-3355. And to leave any comments on the Department of Public Services opinion line, that number is 1-800-335-2120. You can also go on to the Department of Public Services website at www.dps.ny.gov. You can file a complaint if you have online. That is at that website, and it's under complaints. And there is also an Ask PSC DPS consumer resource that is at http://askpsc.dps.ny.gov/. And with that, I want to remind everyone that you may submit your public comments throughout these proceedings by other means that I discussed earlier and that are described in the public statement hearing notice that was issued on February 28th, 2022, and let you know that we will be holding additional public statement hearings on March 29th and 31st, 2022 at 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. Judge Moreno and I would like to thank the commenters for their participation, and we'd like to thank Chair Christian and Commissioner Majori for being present, as well as we'd like to thank the Consumer Service Office for administering this session and our court reporter. And the hearing is concluded at this time. We're going to go off the record.
Okay, one moment. Okay, we are off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.